Okay, we're going to move on now to see and hear from two specific Edinburgh organisations. Two probably of the leading attractions in the city. I'll say that anyway. The first, I'm going to ask Joe and John Paul from Edinburgh Zoo to join us. Yeah, here we're here. And I was telling Joe last night, come on over. I was telling Joe last night that the first time I was in the zoo, I got locked in. Because I was the last one to leave a meeting and I went the wrong way. It was a strange experience. I'll leave it over to you, okay?
So hopefully in a minute our slides will pop up. My name's John Paul, I'm the digital manager at RZSS Edinburgh Zoo. So I'm sure as most of you know, this summer something called Pokemon Go happened. A bit like that annoying U2 album that happened a few years ago. It was kind of forced on the world. Luckily for everyone, it was a lot more fun than that album. But nevertheless, it was here, it was relevant. We were left at the zoo thinking, okay, how does it apply to us? What does it mean? How does it overlap with our audience? So yeah, Pokemon Go was here. Whether we liked it or not, we knew it was popular. But what we had to figure out is how relevant it was to the zoo and our audience of visitors. So Edinburgh Zoo is spread out over an 82-acre site, which, as it turns out in the case of Pokemon Go, is actually quite beneficial because the zoo is populated with lots of Pokestops and 2 gyms. What we quickly realised, though, that it wasn't all beneficial. There was one Pokestop in our blacksmith workshop, and there was another one in the middle of the lion enclosure. So what's not on this map is those 2 Pokestops. So we very quickly came up with a resource for our visitors. We set up on our webpage, but we wanted people to play on our terms. Similarly, we want to be very strict about people, for their safety as much as the animals and everyone else, that while they were immersed themselves in the virtual reality, they were aware of reality. So the resource has proved very, very useful. That said, we did have a case where a tourist wandered into the middle of a wedding trying to catch a Zubat. So we also got a little bit lucky. So around about the same time, so in July, when everyone was trying to scramble to find out what Pokemon Go meant in the world and newspapers were looking for content, they came up with a list of top 10 visitor attractions to find Pokemon. And it just so happened that week that one of our visitors had found a Lickitung. And so obviously Edinburgh Zoo was one of the top 10 in the UK, so we benefited through no plans of our own from this PR greatly. So we got very lucky there. And for anyone who doesn't know what a Lickitung looks like, this is a Lickitung. So we're very grateful for this little guy. We also started to dip our toe in a little bit with some of our social media content. So we knew it was popular, but how did it overlap, or how interesting was it to our subscribers, our Facebook followers, our Twitter followers? So we had a Drowsy hanging out with the penguins, and that did really well. And then our panda team got very creative and made a wee Charmander panda cake, which they gave to Chan Chan there. And again, it was really well received. So we thought, okay, we know the game's popular, we know our audience like it. There was something there. We're, if you don't know, we're owned by a conservation charity, RZSS. So the whole rare, endangered aspect of the Pokemon game seemed to overlap well with some of our core mission values as well. So we knew we wanted to do something with it, but we really started to think seriously about how we could monetize the game. And at this point, I'll hand over to Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm Events and Experiences Manager at the zoo. So, like most good ideas, ours was stolen as well from Bristol Zoo. So they'd run a couple of these events previous to ours, and one of our board members had seen that Bristol Zoo were doing this, so brought it to us, and we looked into it, phoned our friends at Bristol Zoo, and they gave us loads of great advice, told us how they ran theirs, and we kind of copied the format a little bit for our events. So for the events, we promoted the fact, obviously, that we had all the gyms and the Pokestops. We also decided to drop laws throughout the event, so that's where you drop a law, and lots of Pokemon come to you. And we had Pokedex charging stations as well, so just kind of extension cables where people could charge their phones, basically. Then put on a lot of themed food and drink, face painting, had music playing as people came in, tattoos, and free Wi-Fi and free parking as well in the night, so that attracted a lot of people in. So we also decided to drop laws throughout the event, so that's where you drop a law, and we had Pokedex charging stations as well, so just kind of extension cables where people could charge their phones, basically. Then put on a lot of themed food and drink, face painting, had music playing as people came in, tattoos, and free Wi-Fi and free parking as well in the night, so that attracted a lot of people in. So we had kind of a really quick turnaround. We wanted to capitalise, obviously, on the fad as much as we could. So we had about a week and a half to put it all together. So it was a lot of talking to the teams across the zoo, pulling it all together. First stop's always the animal team. So if they're not happy with anything that happens, it doesn't happen. So we blocked off some of the areas of the zoo. So, for example, the koalas and the pandas, made sure people didn't go there, had people manning those areas so people didn't go in. And yeah, we managed to sell out pretty quickly.
So when we knew we wanted to do an event, we just started chatting about how we would market it. And funnily enough, we decided the best way to market this particular event was to tell no one about it, which isn't distinctly true. What we did was we told our staff and we said, there's this event, it's brand new, we know a lot of you play Pokemon Go, tell your friends. And we were blown away with how well it went. So you can see the Google Analytics data here is from August the 3rd, before the event page was published. On August 4th, we had over 10,000 hits, purely through it going viral on Facebook, through staff recommendations, telling their friends. It was also a nice perk for them. It was a wee inside thing that they could share with their friends, like I work at the zoo, there's this great event coming up that no one knows about yet, Pokemon Go. So it worked twofold. Staff had a wee perk, plus that whole viral nature, that it was a wee secret thing that wasn't publicised anywhere, worked really well. And Joe texted me, I think 6 hours after the 2,000 tickets went on sale and said, we've sold out, which took us by complete surprise. So, yeah, delighted. And you can see the data backs this up. So 69% of the traffic that came to that particular page was driven through Facebook, 90% word of mouth, and 8% Google. So very, very powerful using social media. And then just a very quick look at audience. So, yeah, we did big with under threes. They were great. Geographically, we didn't do too different from our usual zoo audience. Unfortunately, because of the way tickets were sold, we don't have much of the hardcore demographic data. But even anecdotally, what we could see is a regular zoo day has a broad spectrum of visitors, but the sector that we struggle with the most is probably late teens to early 20s. And if they do come, it's for a date, so it's maybe a couple that come along. Whereas what we saw was a really high concentration of late teens to early 30s and coming in groups of friends. So apart from our Zoo Nights event, which again is a very different audience, we don't see that regularly at the zoo. So this definitely did tap into a different audience, a different way of people engaging and sharing their time at the zoo. And we saw a lot of older people using their kids as justification for coming to the zoo as well.
So we had two events. One was on a Tuesday night and one was on a Wednesday night in August. We opened the zoo from 6 till 8, so basically just 2 extra hours on the end of the day, opening up the zoo for people just to play Pokemon. And we advertised the fact that it was literally just to play Pokemon. There weren't going to be any enclosures open. You could still see some of the animals, but that wasn't the main attraction. It was a bit of a strange event to work at, probably one of the most surreal that I've ever worked, because you've got all these beautiful animals all around you, but people just heads down looking at their phones, trying to catch these Pokemons. People just tended to find one spot and stay there. They found a spot where there was good Wi-Fi and lots of Pokemon and just sat there and blocked the roads, and then it was very difficult to get them to leave at the end of the day because they wanted to carry on catching. We had a few learnings from the first event. We decided not to put the second event on until we'd had the first one, so we could see what we wanted to do with it. The first one, we followed Bristol Zoo's model and asked for donations on the door. So we had free tickets that we gave away. We kind of gave over 2,000 away, assuming there would be a drop-off. There was a drop-off of about a third of people. And for asking donations on the night, we got just over £5,000. So then for the second one, we decided that in case it was a bad night and people didn't turn up, to reduce that risk, we decided to charge up front. So we charged £5 ticket in advance, and we got ticket sales of £6,800 from that. So that was quite good. Overall net income over the two events was £13,600. So we were really pleased with that because that went towards our conservation projects. First event sold out in just a few hours. The second event took just over a week to sell. So there was a bit of a difference there from the upfront request for payment. But we had great feedback on the night, lots of very excited people of all ages, and lots of great feedback on social media, and then requests as well for additional ones. So it'll be interesting to see if the popularity of Pokemon continues, because if it does, we'd be quite happy to do events again when we get the daylight hours back. So we'll see how that one goes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I ask how many people, and I mean you yourselves directly rather than businesses or you have friends, took part in Pokemon Go in any respect? Actually, quite a few, yeah. Okay.